Hi, welcome to the Going Ballistic podcast. I'm Ryan Kleckner. You're hearing me from the road again, so apologize for the bad noise. I keep doing these from the road. You keep getting podcasts from my truck because I have too many things going on and I don't have enough time, and I've got a family that I want to spend time with. So I have very limited chances to sneak away and do a podcast anymore. So I come to you guys whenever I'm driving home from my lecture, after my classes at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. I got a long drive home, so I take the time to do a podcast. So sorry, guys, but I hope you're enjoying them still. I know you guys keep asking for the podcast. I like doing them, so guess what? Here I am. I did another podcast with the Huntback Country guys from EXO Mountain Gear. Now, we did both these podcasts back in, November of last year, I believe, December time frame. And I knew they were going to wait a while to be able to bring them out, so it was kind of nice to listen to them again because I actually forgot what we talked about. The feedback from those podcasts has been amazing. And it just made me realize how bad I need someone like those guys to do the podcast with me because they asked such good questions. They were able to keep me on track and maybe show what you guys were thinking and to get it out of there. So I either need to do more podcasts with those guys, or I need to get Jason back on here to ask me some good questions to get things going, see if we can link up with our schedules. But anyway, if you guys haven't checked them out, go check them out. I've started listening to their podcast, and I really enjoy it. So great guys, good opportunity. I got some good stuff covered there. Now, as you know, I don't advertise except for really my own products, which I guess is kind of fair. So if you haven't heard of it yet, or you haven't read it yet, please go check out my book, The Long Range Shooting Handbook. It's been out for 15 months now. Just crested 20,000 copies recently. You guys are awesome. I can't even picture what that looks like. How many books that looks like? I don't know how to say that. Picture 20,000 books sitting there. I kind of can't. That's a lot of books, and you guys have been really great. Raised a lot of money for charity. 25% of the proceeds go to the Sua Sponte Foundation or the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. They've been very appreciative of the sport. I've been very appreciative. I need to get the next book finished and get it out. I know you guys are anxious for it. I won't say with who because it's a secret, but I'm signing a publishing deal right now for a third book, which I'm really excited about. So I can't wait to get that thing done for you guys to check it out. The project is really cool. It's an Angler type of book that I wouldn't have thought about doing before, and I'm excited, but I can't talk about it. So anyway, Long Range Shooting Handbook. Appreciate the support, guys. For some of you that are looking for the extra content, I moved it over to ryankleckner.com, and I don't have it worked out quite right with the kinks, so please bear with me. I'm juggling a bunch of websites in the few hours I have at night after I put the kids to bed to try and do the extra side projects, so apologies. The other product I want to tell you guys about that I really appreciate your support with is RocketFFL. It is a new thing I'm doing that is going to help people get their FFL and become an SOT, but it's also going to be firearms compliance training. So that's the real big ticket, I think, is, getting FFL is just really going to kind of make more customers, I guess, because then you might want the firearms compliance training. But there's so many FFLs out there. There's so many employees of gun shops out there, or manufacturers, that just don't know the basics, or they think they do, and that might be worse because it's actually wrong. But to be able to sit people down and have, one of the offerings I have is employee-level firearms retailer training, which is an hour long. So you hire a new employee at a gun shop. The first hour, what you should do is just sit them down and take this course. They're priced at $9.95. I mean, come on, $9.95. You sit the employee down for the first hour on the job, and it just lets them know, hey, this is what a bound book is. Hey, this is what a 4473 is. Hey, here's the key points to watch out for. By no means is it mastery training. It's not going to make them experts in compliance, but at least it might arm them with enough knowledge to know when to raise their hand and ask a question, right? So even when I give the full-on compliance training, which is just the ATF compliance course that I offer, which is much, much longer, even that probably won't make you a compliance professional, but at least it's going to let you know when to notice that something might be wrong and then to reach out to me for help on how to solve it. So these courses that I offer that are the training, they end up with certificates at the end. And that's nice for some people because you want to track employee progress. You have a big manufacturing company and you want to have them every year have to get recertified on something. It's a certificate you can put in their file. It's a professional certificate. It comes out digitally signed with a serial number and stuff like that. I think it's kind of cool. But anyway, it's a new project. I'd really appreciate you guys spreading the word. Check it out yourself. It's free to join up to see the courses and see what's in there. That gets me, at least your email address so I can send you updates in the future. You can also do free trials of the courses to try out a couple of lessons to see if you like the format. Any feedback you guys give me, good, bad, indifferent, as long as it's honest, I appreciate it. And if you know of anyone looking for any of those services or products, tell them about it. It's RocketFFL.com is where they can find it. Also, the Facebook page. I'm trying to get likes and trying to get attention on the Facebook page. I'd appreciate it there too at RocketFFL because that way my messages will actually reach a bigger audience. If you see something on there you like, please don't forget to share it. That's the only way I'm going to be able to spread some word about it. So like for example, to start off the podcast, I might give a little compliance tips. I'm going to try it a little bit, so at least you guys can understand maybe what I do or what RocketFFL offers. I just put a post up about ATF releasing the statistics on the 2016 theft loss reports and how it is going up over 2015. Now, it's gone down year over year, but now it's going back up again. And I organized the information, put a little bit of a summary out there as as a blog post or an article and shared it on Facebook. But it doesn't reach a whole lot of people because people don't know about the page yet. So if you go check it out and you like it, please spread the word. Recoil Magazine, for example, picked it up, liked it, and shared it, and I really appreciate that. If you do the same, that'll help make the site more popular, which would be appreciated. But those theft loss reports, so you guys know what those are, and you can understand it, those aren't really guns that were, stolen necessarily, all of them. Really what happens is, for FFLs, they need to keep books on a kind of a master record, I call it the A&D record. It stands for Acquisition and Disposition Record. And it's a log of every gun they've received and every gun they've sent off. So you can have an entire picture of the history of the FFL and what's currently there. The acquisitions is any gun they made or they got from another FFL, they got from a customer, and the dispositions are getting rid of the guns. So the examples of getting rid of the guns, there's only 5 examples, 5 allowed ways to dispose of a gun. That's to another FFL, that's one. Number 2 is to an entity other than an FFL, like a government agency that's exempt from it. Number 3 is to an individual that's not an FFL. You do that via that Form 4473 and the background checks and everything. The 4th way to do it is to scrap it or destroy it. You put that in the log and you dispose of it. And the 5th way is to report it as lost or stolen. That's the only way to get off your record. So what happens is FFLs will do an inventory, and shoot, they're missing the gun. Or at least they have an acquisition record for which there's no matching disposition record, which means the gun should be there. Well, they search high and low, they search through the sales records, they try to figure out what's going on, and they cannot figure out what happened to that gun. Well, once they've determined that it must have been lost or stolen, which is different than missing, okay? The gun's just missing off your desk, you don't go run and report it to the ATF because it might be in the next room. But once you've exhausted your reasonable search and you've determined that it must be, lost or stolen, then an imaginary 48-hour clock starts ticking in which you have to notify the ATF and local law enforcement. And so it's not being used in a crime out there, right? So once they've determined that it must have been lost or stolen because they can't find it, they make this report, they get a transaction number, and then they close out that disposition, so when they get their next inspection from the ATF, it's not shown as, a gun that should be there. It's been closed out. Well, that goes on to the ATF's report every year. So some of these guns were never acquired, right? Some of these guns were people using automated systems that, automatically logged in a gun that they should have received from the distributor, even though it never made it to them in the first place. So they never really lost it or had it stolen. It may have never, arrived. Or there may have been a typo when they acquired the gun and never really got that gun. They got a different gun, so it was just kind of like a hanging open entry. Or manufacturers, the system that lasers the new serial numbers on the guns may have accidentally lasered air a couple times if they pressed the button, so it cycled through and made records on the books even though the gun never existed. So it's important to keep in mind that those aren't necessarily real guns that are out there on the street being used in crimes, but at least it gives a picture on the accuracy of what's going on. And I want to tell people, too, that the number going up doesn't mean necessarily that more guns are getting lost. That actually may not be bad. It may be good, right? I've worked with plenty of manufacturers or dealers that have had their theft loss numbers go up, and they've panicked thinking that was a bad thing, or the ATF is trying to say that was a bad thing. And I've had to argue, sometimes no, the number going up just means that more were found. That may mean that, it was bad before, but now they're using, to use an analogy, have a better prescription in their glasses so they can see more problems better. So just because they're finding more problems doesn't mean they're getting worse. That actually might mean they're being more compliant, and getting things scrubbed off. So there's your firearms compliance tidbit for the podcast. Last podcast I talked about how to run the gun. I talked about how to run the bolt and how to reload the gun like you mean it, and how to treat it like any other weapon system. You wouldn't sit there with a pistol with a slide locked back staring at the target. Likewise, don't sit there with the bolt back on an empty gun. I had a student from Germany one time in our sniper school, and I had to learn enough German to keep screaming at him, Waffen laden bitte, which was load your weapon, please, because he was the worst culprit of just sitting there on an empty gun staring at the pretty target. Something else to talk about is how to load the gun. So this is the topic I thought about sharing tonight, is how to carry the gun and how to employ it, but also how to reload it. So you run empty on a bolt gun, and you need to get it back up and running. Don't do what you wouldn't do with other guns either, which is completely turn your head down and stare at your belt or stare at your bag and take your time reloading your gun. You're going to want to keep an eye somewhat on the threat or the area to figure out what's going on. Now, I'm saying threat. I'm talking, tactical shooting here, but this also applies to hunting. You run dry, you want to keep your eyes up there to see where the deer went, where the groundhog went, things like that. So the lessons I want to give you here apply to both hunting, civilian, and also the tactical realm. Is keep your eyes on the target and keep looking through the scope. You should know where your chamber and where your loading port in your rifle is. You should know where your magazine release is if you have a magazine on a bolt gun or if you're running a gas gun. You should know where your extra rounds of ammo and where your magazines are without having to look for them. One, you want to keep looking at the target area to see where the bad guys are or where the animals went. But two, it might be night, it might be dark. You might not have the ability to see even if you did want to take your eyes off of where you're shooting and want to look. So you should know where these things are. Let's talk about on a bolt gun first. If you have an internal magazine bolt gun, like many folks do, if you need to immediately get the gun back into the fight, grab a loose round, throw it in the opening, the loading port, and shove the bolt home to get a round in the chamber and stare down range. That's the absolute fastest way to get the gun up and running if you need to engage something. And if you need to engage, shoot, run the bolt back, throw another loose round in, throw the bolt forward again. And if you need to engage, you can engage again. Now, if you have a chance to be able to reload and you realize that you don't absolutely need that next round this second, then go ahead and pull that round out, keeping your eyes down range, and start pressing the rounds into your internal magazine one by one. You put them in, press them down so they click in, and slide them back to the rear of the magazine. Never let the rounds load, in different positions forward and back. You click it down to the magazine and grab your fingers and pull it to the back to take the kind of the slop out of it if there's some space in there. And then you take the next round, click that round in, do the same thing. And you go one round at a time while looking at your target. The reason you do this is at any given time, let's say you just got done loading round 3, you decide that it's time to shoot at the target again, all you got to do is shove the bolt home and fire because it'll be ready to go. You pull the empty casing out and you can continue loading if you need to, but that's why you keep watching. You can just shove it home and go. Then when your magazine is loaded to the capacity, get the gun back up and running and get back on the target. You should discipline yourself to do this at the end of shooting every single group of the target. Again, don't shoot a pretty group, sit there with an empty gun, and high-five your buddy on how pretty your group is, or bitch and moan about why your group is bad and blame it on a flyer. Okay? Practice getting the gun back up and running just like you would do with a pistol, just like you would do with a carbine. Okay? It's going to make you better all around, hunting, tactical, whatever. Now, if you have a bolt gun with a magazine, with a detachable magazine, I think the first thing you should do is still throw in a loose round. Okay? Yeah, even if you have an extra magazine nearby, it's so much faster to me to have some loose rounds on my cheek pad or on the side of my bag. Grab a loose round, just toss it in and throw the bolt home. That's the fastest way to get that gun back up and running to follow up with a shot if you need to follow up with a shot. Because trust me, if you need that extra round, you need it now, right? That tells you in a tactical situation that the target was bad enough that it needed all of your ammo and still wasn't down, or if in a hunting situation, that means you got to shoot quick before the animal made it away, which means shooting now is sometimes more important than getting a bunch of rounds. Well, once you get that round in the chamber, then, if you have the chance, you can release the magazine with your support hand, grab a fresh magazine and pop one back in, all while keeping a round in the chamber. I think that's a much better method to use. Then, if you have more time, take those loose rounds and load up that empty mag. You can take both hands off, keep the rifle on your shoulder, keep looking at the target. You shouldn't have to look at your magazine to load it, and take your time loading it. If you need to shoot, you can drop the mag, put your hands back on the gun, and fire if you need to, because your gun is in an operable condition. But at least you can get that magazine topped off and get it back in a position on your bag or on your belt, wherever you keep it, so it's ready if you need to do a mag change again. But it's also not just laying on the ground. So you have, a gypsy camp or a yard sale going on with all your gear stored about, so you can't just get up and move. Now, you're running a gas gun, you guys should know how to reload that one, right? It's the same as your pistol, same as a carbine, same as anything else. Drop the mag, get a fresh mag in, release the bolt hole, make sure you're good to go. Now, something that's important is to make sure you have a round in the chamber. It's easy on a bolt gun, if you're not used to it, to run the gun dry and not realize it. Now, it makes a very distinct sound that if you have the opportunity to hear, you can get used to, kind of like how an AR-15, if you are familiar with one and shooting one, you know what it feels like on that last round. It's an unmistakable feel. The last round just feels different when you fire it. And someone that's experienced, that doesn't have, adrenaline or focus going on 20 different things, is going to know just when the gun ran empty and can change the magazine. Well, the same thing's true with a bolt gun. The sound is so unique that with amplified earmuffs, I can hear a student on the line, 5 or 6 shooters down from me, load air into their chamber, and I often will jump off the scope and run down behind them and stare at their trigger finger to see if they flinch. Because when I hear them run the bolt home in an empty chamber, that tells me that, one, I either get a chance to correct them on being on an empty gun if they aren't shooting again, or if they do shoot again, it gives me the free opportunity to watch their trigger control to see if there's a flinch or anything like that, and then get mad at them for running an empty gun. So eventually you'll get the feel of it, of how to take care of it. But if you don't know, if you've been sitting there a while, you should be checking. So one of the problems with sitting on the gun for, 15, 20 minutes, an hour, is that you might forget the condition the gun's in. Very often we make mistakes. We fire and never ran the bolt at all. Or we ran the bolt and put an empty chamber in there. You get a chance to check, both on bolt and gas gun. You should be able to, while looking through the scope, pull the bolt back a little bit, just an inch, and reach up with your firing hand finger to feel the brass that's there. Now, the downside is, this won't tell you if it's empty brass or fresh brass, or a fresh round, but at least tell you if there's something in there. Now, in a bolt gun, once you've determined, that was there, you should have checked ahead of time, should have warned you, to take your finger and feel if the bolt is cocked. On a bolt gun, you can tell if the bolt is cocked or not. So if the bolt was cocked, and then you pull it back an inch to check to see if brass is there, you know it's a live round. Okay? If you check if it's cocked after that, well, it's not going to do any good because you probably just cocked the gun. On a gas gun, you're not going to know. You just got to keep track of it. But I like to chamber check to make sure something's there. Just remember, it might be the empty brass from last time, so be careful. So I think I told you guys about the habit. You should walk around with your gun with the scope on the lowest power setting. That's because if a target pops up, quick and close, it's easier to acquire the target and fire, and only adjust to higher magnification if time and the situation dictates. So immediately I would drop to a knee if I had the opportunity and to look at the target. And then if I have a chance, I don't have to shoot yet, and I can get down lower, then I'll get down lower, either seated or to a prone position. And then once I'm in the prone position, if I still have a chance, I'll go ahead and turn up the magnification only then. So let's see, I covered how to carry the gun, covered how to run the gun, covered how to reload the gun. Let's see malfunction clearance on a bolt gun. Right? To clear malfunction on a bolt gun, there is remedial action that you should take right away, just like you can do like with a pistol. Everyone should know tap, rack, bang. Well, with a bolt gun with an internal magazine, what you want to do is, and you have a malfunction, so a double feed, or something goes wrong, it's not feeding out of the magazine, something like that, is pull the bolt to the rear, drop the hinged floor plate for the internal magazine if you have it, and let all the rounds spill out, then run the bolt twice with the floor plate down. So run the bolt twice, all the way down, lock it, open back, all the way down the back to try and extract what's in there. Then close the floor plate, but the way you do it is, the best way is to pinch the bottom spring, because you'll have the, the zigzag spring that holds the follower on the floor plate, is if you just grab the bottom part of the zigzag, so the lowest level against the floor plate, and pinch it against the floor plate, and then close the floor plate, you'll have a better chance of not having the follower get all cockeyed as you close it. So you pinch it, close it, throw a loose round in, and shove it home. If you can get that loose round to chamber, now you're back into the fight, and if you have time, you can then, go back to all the way reloading. But by throwing a loose round in, at least you can get the round off, pull the bolt back, and do it one by one if you need to, or then load from there. Now, having a magazine fed gun's the same thing. Get the magazine out. You remove the feeding source that's going to keep introducing rounds into your jam. Clear the jam, and then get a feeding source, a fresh one back in if you can, to get back into the fight. So let's see, did I cover how to run a gun? All right, well, there was a tip for you. I covered a little bit of firearms compliance stuff. Oh, questions people have been asking. I've been getting a lot of questions about caliber lately. Which cartridge do I prefer? Yeah, guys, I do prefer some cartridges sometimes. I talked about one last podcast. But don't let that sway you. I mean, if you got a cartridge you like, stick with it. I had someone chime in about how they were getting a rifle for their daughter. She had borrowed her sister's 243 and it didn't work out right for her. She borrowed somebody else's 308 and it worked out great, so now she loves the 308. Awesome. She wants the 308? Get a 308. I mean, what a great all-around cartridge. You have all those Q rifles. You have the fixed rifles that I have. The 308s are gone. Every one of them is spoken for, and I still have a couple 6.5s left. So 308 is a great universal all-around cartridge, and if she likes shooting it, my gosh, let her shoot it. Don't be worried about the kick. You can get light bullets for a 308. If you reload, you load it down quite a bit. Especially if you use H4895, you can use that 60% conversion to get some really light loads for her. But also, you go hunting somewhere and you forget the ammo, you got a better chance probably of finding 308 than just about anything else. At the local hunting store, or the gun store. So that's a great cartridge to use. The other reason it might just work better for it is the gun fit her better. But it doesn't matter. Psychologically, she liked the 308. Stick with the 308. No, it's not as flat as 6.5 Creedmoor. No, it's not going to be as ballistically coefficient, as the 6.5 Creedmoor. But it's got more of a punch. It's going to hit the target better. I can tell when I hit a steel target better with 308 than I can with 6.5 Creedmoor. This race to get the perfect caliber for everything. Unless you've got the resources, the time and energies, don't worry about it. Get a 308, guys, and be done with it. Maybe get a 6.5 Creedmoor and be done with it. When I talk about the minutia of one cartridge over the next, that's because I have the time to daydream and geek out about which cartridge is better, and I'm loading for ultimate performance I can get out of it. Not everyone does that, so don't worry about it. Don't get the most gee-whiz expensive gun possible. Get a decent, good enough gun. Get a good enough scope. Get it in 308, and go shoot the snot out of it and get really good, and then worry about geeking out like I do about 6.5 Lapua versus 6.5 Creedmoor. It shouldn't matter to you until you're at that point. And if you are and you can't decide between them, then get the one that's the most common, so at least you're more likely to have a friend that has one, or you can find load data for it, or you can find ammo for it, at the range. Just before I started this podcast, I had someone write into me via Facebook page and said, should I get this rifle in 260 or 6.5 Creedmoor? I just recommended he go to CGS Rifles because he asked who I recommend. I told him they're the guys I use. I mean, they are, talk to Bobby, they're the best out there. They're the guys. They've also been very kind to fans of me and my products. They've hooked some guys up big time. So they're working with them, and he asked me 260 or 6.5 Creedmoor, and I wrote back blonde or brunette. It's personal preference. Then you want to get down to it, the 260 will outperform the 6.5 Creedmoor. Definitely. It has more case capacity, so you can get more powder in, you can get some higher velocity. But it's a longer case. So you start getting some, higher ballistic coefficient bullets that are longer. You can't seat them out as far as they need to be seated because you're going to run out of magazine space. But if you have a, medium length action, and you can get away with sticking the bullets out, well, the 260 is going to win. But you're never going to find ammo for it. When you go on a trip somewhere, you forgot some ammo, and you need to go pick some up, you're way more likely to find 6.5 Creedmoor ammo on the shelf somewhere. So, 260 or 6.5 Creedmoor, yes. 308, 243, 270, sure. Any one of those is going to work fine for you. It all comes down to what you want to use it for, too. You want strictly a target gun? I don't know. 6.5 Creedmoor might be the way to go nowadays if you could start from scratch and you didn't mind. But you want it for hunting too? Sure, you could hunt it out with 6.5 Creedmoor. I don't know if I'd want to. You know, I mean, everybody falls into this trap of what would be the perfect gun in the moment. You know, this is true for concealed carry too. I hear guys all the time say, "Oh, you're only carrying a J-frame and 38 special? Huh, I got a 10 millimeter." Well, great. Where is it? Oh, it's at home in my safe. Well, it doesn't do you much good at home in your safe. I'd rather take a 22 long rifle. Yes, I'd rather take a 22 long rifle handgun for concealed carry than nothing. It beats a sharp stick. Okay, so whatever you've got is better than whatever you could have had, but you don't. So think about that. And then when you get into the caliber debates about which is more stopping power, well, for hunting, I want the 300 Rum versus the what? You know what? If you want to, in a defensive situation especially, I hear guys that a lot tactically, by the way. I'm a big fan of the 223, Mark 12 type SPR accurate platforms. I mean, I don't like the AR-15 that much, but it's a great platform. It works, and it's awesome for accurate rifles. I'll hear guys say to me all the time, "Oh, it's only 223. That's not enough stopping power, right? I'd rather have 308." Excuse me. Well, you know what? 308's not enough stopping power compared to 50 BMG, so why stop there? I mean, if we could just snap our fingers and have the biggest thing possible if we got a crazy person running at us, well, wouldn't we want the biggest thing possible? Well, sure, 50 BMG then. So then everybody should carry 50 BMG. And so that's what I say to the guys that try and argue that 223 is not enough or something's not enough, is they tell me what they think is better. I just tell them, well, 50 BMG is bigger than that, so why aren't you carrying a 50 BMG everywhere? Well, the answer is it's not necessarily always practical. It might be too big. It might be too heavy. It might not be fun to shoot. It might be too expensive to shoot. So it's always a compromise, so we just draw the line in different spots. So find something that works for you that's good enough for hunting or good enough for target shooting, and become a master of that gun and that cartridge, and you'll be way better off than the person that's always chasing the absolute most powerful or the absolute flattest shooting. Tyler Payne is a shooter for the Army Marksmanship Unit. Great guy. I've actually shot on squad with him a couple times at 3-gun matches. Really cool dude. Really respect him. Great shooter. And I saw a quote of his recently, which is essentially, don't chase the newest round. Get whatever works for you and get good at it, and you'll be fine. And truer words couldn't have been spoken. So I hope that helps you guys. If you want one of the 6.5 Creedmoor Q the fixed rifles, go jump on the website and go snag one. There's a couple left. If you could add it to the cart and check out, it's there. Now the 308s, because they're all spoken for, I've had some more people email me asking for them. I put some text in red warning you at the website that says, hey, you want one, go ahead and buy one. It'll let you check out for the 308. But that means you're being put on the next list, which means I got to reach out to Q and get another batch. So you'll still be on there, but you'll be backward when you go to the next batch. So write in the topics you guys want for next time. I get questions constantly. I just don't know which one's a good topic for a podcast. Check out the Long Range Shooting Handbook. Check out RocketFFL. Even if you're not going to get your FFL, just a like or a follow or a share of stuff on the Facebook page, I'd really appreciate. You guys are the best. Take care. Until next time.